Good morning. Good morning. Hello. It's your boys, Steve Straza, Sean McLaughlin. This is the Flow Show. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Straza, how was your weekend?
It was good. Had a busy week, had a travel week. So we relaxed a lot, but it was nice. How was yours?
Uh, you know, when the markets are closed, I don't know, man. Sometimes I get a little bored. McLaughlin,
You get a little what?
sometimes I get a little bored.
Yeah.
It was a double whammy. My football team didn't have a game because they played Thursday night.
Yeah.
Markets were closed. Bitcoin wasn't doing anything really over the weekend. So I'm going to admit, I was a little bored.
Bitcoin. I think we should talk about that a little bit here today because you're
Yeah,
right.
you like how I set up that was a little segue, a little set up that segue for you?
I was going through the list today. I'll throw it up. Sorry, Gene. Going to full view here. Terrible. And that also speaks to a theme in the broader market now where trying to tell JC on the morning show every morning here, things do not look good. Beneath the surface, more and more stocks are making new lows. Fewer and fewer stocks are making new highs. Breakouts are not holding. Breakdowns are starting to materialize in a real way. I went through the list of all these bullish flow names, right? Nothing good. Then what stands out, interesting enough, is Bitcoin. One of the few areas right now where you could point to a chart and say, oh, that's trending, right? That looks good. Can't say that about most stocks. Bearish flow. So that's just the nature of this table. We're supposed to come in here and use the bullish flow ideas for bullish opportunities and the bearish for bearish opportunities. Looks like somebody's fading the strength in Bitcoin. I don't love that.
Well, look, I know JC's been pounding the table on seasonality, and he thinks that we could be setting up for a year-end rally, and he might be right,
Yeah.
but I'm with you, man. And I can only go with what's happening with me, right? And I did have a lot of positions on coming into October,
Yeah.
many with a bullish bent, and many even delta neutral trades, and trade after trade that's bullish or has any kind of short puts that I've gotten stopped out of. And that is what happens when stocks are going down. And so I can only go with what's happening with my portfolio, and things are going down. Maybe I'm in the wrong stocks, which is, I'm sure, what JC would say. You're in the wrong stocks, perhaps. But this is a tough tape, man.
You know, UNH can't prop up the entire market. Maybe the Dow, but I guess that's the problem with the Dow. The Some of the best information I think that we get as traders are in what's happening to our trades. I put on that Bank of America last week. I think maybe the day before or after you did. I was literally stopped out the next afternoon.
Yeah. Quick,
One day.
quick out.
Yeah. And that's been the case with my stuff lately too. And I've been like quiet and sitting on my hands, thank God, for most of the past 2 weeks. But they're not getting better. We're not seeing evidence of a tradable low or a short-term bottom. In fact, we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing momentum pick up to the downside. So I think this is very much like a wait and see kind of environment. But I do think Bitcoin offers an interesting long opportunity here, right?
All
And I
right,
think
so let's talk about Bitcoin because I mean I'm with you. There's action happening there, and before we went live, you were telling me about this BITO that showed
yeah,
up on the Follow the Flow report, and look, I have to admit, full disclosure, I never heard of this thing until today, until you
yeah.
pointed it out to me, and I'm looking at it, and if I pull up the options chain here, Gene, if you want to show my screen. I'm surprised to see. I mean, look, you got all these weekly options listed. If I open up, let's say, like the December monthly options, we've got a lot of open interest here, and and the bid ask spreads are reasonably tight.
Mm.
Um, I have to. I don't know. I'm ashamed that I've never heard of this thing before.
You know, I wouldn't be ashamed. I I think the current options for Bitcoin ETFs are terrible, right? So I pulled up the website, was looking up the fact sheet of this bit. Oh, Sean, you're like, why is it called the Bitcoin Strategy ETF? It's because like
Yeah.
regulations are really strict about this stuff. They have to be careful what they name it because they have to be very, very clear about the fact that they're not going to track the performance of Bitcoin all that well. Look at this second sentence here, right on the homepage of their website. there's no guarantee the fund will closely track Bitcoin returns.
So is this is this basically an ETF of a hedge fund? Are we trading the performance of a hedge fund?
Long futures, but the problem is futures markets aren't they're not great, right, for Bitcoin. So when you roll these positions, there's slippage. Same
Okay.
thing with a lot of these commodity funds. So if you look at the charts, like right here, if you flip to my chart, Gene, Bitcoin looks great. Took out its year-to-date highs, right? Resolved this range. If you look at the strategy ETF, still below its year-to-date highs, right? So they should look a lot closer. And that's why there's such a big buzz around this ETF approval news, because a spot Bitcoin ETF would be a product available to equity market investments that would, or investors that would be super liquid and available to everybody, that would pretty much look identical to a chart of Bitcoin. So that's what's coming. That's exciting. But for now, this is what we got. And you're saying they're very active, very, very optionable.
I mean, not they're active enough. The fact that there's weekly options listed out,
Yeah.
numerous expirations here, and the fact that we've got open interest in the thousands and all the nearby strikes. I mean, that is that's pretty compelling. And I've said to you guys, I don't know if I said it on air, but I've definitely talked about this with you guys, is that I would love for there to be a Bitcoin instrument for equities traders that that correctly tracks Bitcoin, a Bitcoin ETF, kind of like a SPY, right? SPY that tracks the S&P 500. If we had a BTC ETF and they had actionable options on it, which I mean, let me rephrase that. If we had options on it, I feel like those options would be very liquid, very active, and I would love to trade, an active Bitcoin, a true Bitcoin options product. So my fingers are crossed that that happens. I think it will happen. It's only a matter of time. I just hope it happens soon.
I'm with you, Sean. I think it's interesting too, right? Because Bitcoin really did emerge as a viable asset class a long time ago, but the derivatives markets never really evolved to what I thought they would. Any of them. Futures, option, like the
Yeah.
options, disaster.
Well, it's been a slow creep, but over the past, what is it, 6 to 8 months, we've seen bigger players, more established players come into the space. BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, Schwab, I think. Everyone's talking about getting their hands involved and investing in this space. So you have to believe that it's coming, and I'm rooting for it because I would love to sell premium on Bitcoin options.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I think that's exactly what it's going to take. You need the institutions to buy in, and not just buy in and invest, but help out with the infrastructure, right? Like I would envision a future where the big clearinghouses and investment banks are helping on the infrastructure side, clearing these,
Absolutely.
brokering these trades more, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna invest the millions and millions of dollars to make this a viable space, they're gonna have a vested interest in keeping the liquidity up, keeping the infrastructure in place, and attracting investing dollars to it. So it's a win for everybody when the big players get involved.
It's coming. So, question for you. What is the best way to play out a long Bitcoin thesis or short, right? This was bearish flow. I think that's crazy. I think you want to be long only Bitcoin. If we're above, let's take a look. This 30 level. What's the best way to get long in the options market? You have other options. So you have the crypto miners. You have this BitO, like we're talking about. You have MicroStrategy.
I was gonna say MicroStrategy is the closest thing, and we've said this before. It's the closest thing to a pure play that we have for equities traders to get exposure to Bitcoin. I mean, you could tell me I'm wrong, but that's the one for me.
So we're running the numbers behind the scenes right now. MicroStrategy actually has a better correlation from the looks of it to Bitcoin itself than this BitO strategy ETF. How cool is that? Like, good for MicroStrategy. Look, and here it is with the correlation.
Good for MicroStrategy. Good for Michael Saylor.
Yeah, I mean that's what they wanted, right? And they're doing better than a futures ETF. That's
I've
trying
said it
to.
before, and I'll say it again. When the history books are written, Michael Saylor is either going to go down as the greatest CEO of all time or the biggest shitbag of all time. There's
Yeah.
no in between. It's a barbell for this guy.
Yep. Totally.
I'm rooting for him to be the greatest CEO of all time. I would love to see it.
Bitcoin above 30, I think things are looking pretty good for him. So MicroStrategy, the problem from an options market perspective, for me at least, because I've done it before and then I've not done it before because of the price of the stock. I just hate trading options on these high price stocks. Like for me, one of the nice things about trading options is I get to minimize my capital outlay, right? Save my capital for other things, but still make big levered bets that matter, right? And would be material to me. With MicroStrategy, you kind of lose that. What's the stock trading at now? 430?
425, yeah. Yeah, you have to trade this one with spreads if you're concerned about the high price, which I am too. I'm with you, man. Like, I never feel comfortable outlaying more than like say $10
Yeah.
for a one lot on anything, right?
And for me, I need to buy more than one. Otherwise, I'll mess up from a risk management perspective. If I own more than one, I'm always going to sell the double and protect myself. If I only own one, I don't. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I like to have multiple contracts on because it gives me flexibility, right? If I could leg out of it if it's going my way, but I don't want to sell everything. Or if maybe I don't do this very often, Straza, but sometimes I want to leg in. Like I think it's going to be volatile. I think it's going to be all over the place, and I want to try to get better prices. So I'll buy one contract here, and I'll leave a limit order lower. I don't do that a whole lot, but I like that flexibility. I never like buying just one contract. I do it from time to time, but I don't like doing it. But with MicroStrategy, you got to do a spread, whether it's a vertical spread or a calendar spread. I mean, in fact, looking at MicroStrategy right now, if I were to take a bullish stance on this right now, a compelling trade to me would be some kind of calendar spread. At the 500 strike. Maybe buying some further out of the money or out, further out in time 500 strike calls and selling, say, the December 500 calls against it to lower that cost, and maybe rolling those short options every month as it decays away, as long as MicroStrategy still doesn't get to 500. And
Yes. Why not even go deeper out of the money, right? So I'm looking at the chart now. Something like MicroStrategy, if we're above 30,000 in Bitcoin, right? Let's go back to Bitcoin. We're above 30 in Bitcoin. We're thinking more or less next stop, those old all-time highs. So then you would say, okay, for MicroStrategy, the same thing. That puts us back above 1,000.
Is that how high that got? Let me pull up a weekly chart here.
Want to go a little deeper out of the money.
Ooh.
That cost down. Or even if you want to be conservative, use the high from late 2021.
All right, let's get crazy here for a second,
Yeah,
Stress. Let's get crazy. Let's look at let's go look some leaps. January 26. All right. We look at I'm going to go as far out as I can go. The highest strike available is 870. Whew, look at that.
That's it?
$100 on the offer.
All right.
$10,000 per contract per one lot. That's what your outlay would be.
Guess what?
So maybe that's a little aggressive, but hold on.
Sean, those things are so in the money if Bitcoin goes back to new all-time highs.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But let's just for shits and giggles here. Let's do like 850. Nice round number. If I were to buy an 850 calendar spread here, where's my it's not allowing me to do calendar. Must not have a strike there. Oops. Oops, I lost my thing. Sorry. MSTR. Well, let's look at an 850 strike in December. I mean, you're only going to get a $1.75. if you go out to January of 2026.
We're going out 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. That's a little aggressive. Yeah.
You don't need that much time.
No.
Go out a year.
Let's do something a little bit more reasonable. Let's look at June.
Good.
That's 7 months out. An 800 strike call is going to cost you about $26. Still a lot.
That's almost the 25 Delta strike, no?
That is the 25 Delta strike. Well, it's right around there, yeah, at 800. So maybe if you, so it's, let's just say it's 26 bucks rounding around. Okay. It's 26 bucks to buy that 800 call in June. Maybe we sell, let's see, what is a January call cost at 800? You sell for about 525. So hold on, 525. Sorry guys, this is how the sausage is made. Sometimes it's not very sexy. This is just, how we do it.
So while you're doing that, I'll just add context for anybody who just might have started watching late. Ultimately, I said, Sean, I want to make the bet through the options market. Bitcoin goes back to all-time highs. Let's find a good vehicle. What would be like the YOLO calls? How would we play that? So we're looking at MicroStrategy. We're going out almost a year. So I guess next summer here, we're making a big bet. Bitcoin goes back to all-time highs. That means MicroStrategy goes back to all-time highs, more than the double from here. Maybe there's a play there.
Yeah.
So those are the assumptions we're making. We are so bulled up on Bitcoin if we're putting on this trade. And it needs to be above 30,000. If it is,
right, so let's look at this. If we were to do June and January, if we were to do a June, January call calendar spread at the 800 strike. So we're selling, that means we're selling the January calls, buying the June calls. We could do it for about 20 bucks. So $2,000 per one lot. Still not cheap. Definitely not cheap. But this thing, let's pull up a little analyze tab here. Now we're really going to get fancy. Hold on. Analyze. I hope this shows up well on this screen here.
At the same time, here's what I'm trying to think. Right? I'm thinking as if I'm putting this trade on. If I'm going to spend 2,000 on the calls, or in my situation, I got to buy two, so 4,000 on the calls. I at least feel okay in the sense that we're going out far enough, and there's already that much premium there that if Bitcoin breaks 30,000, right, we're right at a key level in Bitcoin now, right? If we were to pull back and undo this progress, you could still get out of those for a decent amount. You're not going to lose it all, is my point.
For sure. So I pulled up a little P&L graph here. I don't know how well this shows up on the screen, but
yeah,
for a $2,000 investment, approximately on a one lot.
Yeah.
If MicroStrategy got anywhere near 800, I mean, this purple line shows what your P&L would be today if it happened today. We're not saying it's going to happen today, but
you get like 3 or 4 ads.
If it happened as soon as today, you would have more than doubled your money if it got to 800. Now, I don't think that's reasonably possible, but let's look a couple months out. Let's say we have this trade on and it's now, we're getting into that Christmas time when everyone's talking Bitcoin, right? We like to talk about that. People talk about Bitcoin at the holidays. I just, arbitrarily, and this is not set in stone, right? There's a lot of factors that can change these values, but all things being equal, if on December 22nd, heading into Christmas, if MicroStrategy were to be in that $800 range that we're talking about, now you're sitting on a profit of $7,500 on a $2,000 investment. So you've almost quadrupled your money.
Is it saying these calls are going to be worth close to like 15 grand, right?
No, it might be. This is looking at the combined value of the two strikes.
13.6. Wow. Yeah. Don't hate it. Don't hate it. It's important to point out why MicroStrategy. This is a double leveraged bet, right? Disclaimer. It's a double leverage bet. We're not only picking up leverage or using leverage via the options market, but then MicroStrategy itself is using leverage. So this stock can move anywhere from 4, 5, 6 times as much as Bitcoin a day. In other words, Bitcoin's up 1% today. MicroStrategy could easily be up 5%, right? So you're getting double juice in this. It's not for everybody. MicroStrategy is either going to scream to the upside and follow Bitcoin, or like Sean said, Michael Saylor's not going to go down in history as an absolute pioneer of industry, right? Bitcoin, if it were to fall back into its range, MicroStrategy is going to really perform poorly. So It's a very, very binary bet we're making. And it's nice to see that it would pay off that kind of a reward, because it's not for the faint of heart. It's a pretty risky.
Well, no matter what strategy you use to express a bullish bet through micro strategy, you want to do it with defined risk. All right.
Mhm.
So you don't want to be selling naked puts. You don't want to be selling, you definitely don't want to be selling naked calls. You want to have some kind of spread. So, we're complaining that we can't just buy calls. I mean, you can buy calls. They're expensive if you're willing to take on that risk of that high unit cost. Now, look, if you're trading a $5 million account, then buying one contract of MicroStrategy is no big deal, right? No problem at all. I think most of our viewers are not trading $5 million accounts, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. So when you're trading a big product, you gotta use spreads to keep your costs. And hey, that's one of the great features of the options market. You can design trades to fit your portfolio, to fit your outlook, and to profit in any type of market environment. Doesn't mean you're always going to get it right. Of course not. I get more trades wrong than I get right, for sure. But the options market gives us a lot more permutations to really customize the trades that we want versus just, buy or sell in the futures market.
There's some great words of wisdom from an expert options trader. I'll just add to it. Listen, I think this was a really fun discussion, and I think an important one too. This is not a crazy idea. This is for anybody who wants to make a very bullish bet on Bitcoin, right? So again, what we're doing here, we're utilizing options to maximize our returns in an environment where Bitcoin has just resolved higher from a textbook reversal pattern, which if we're above 30, I think it has. And our price target for a move like this would be back to those old highs. In that environment, a stock like MicroStrategy is really going to rip. And let me explain why. This truly is a Bitcoin ETF at its core. 95% of the company's assets are just holding Bitcoin. They have a tiny little software business that's literally not material. The stock moves based on the price of Bitcoin. And then it's also leveraged, right? Which I think is important to remember also. So I think it's a great option. It's a great vehicle in the environment where Bitcoin does go back to those old all-time highs. This is a pretty cool trade. So this was fun.
Does the software business side of this company actually make any money? I'm curious. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
they're profitable. They're profitable. It would be a micro cap business. It's just not material. Not
I was
material.
just wondering if the software business is really just like a tax write-off at this point.
I think it's like an old. It's either like an old. It's not hardware, but it's like legacy software. It's nothing exciting. That's for sure.
No, I think I've told you before. I had a friend when I graduated college. His first job out of college was working for MicroStrategy back in the late '90s in Virginia. I know the company's been around a long time, and they actually were just a software company for a while.
You imagine if he had like some old MicroStrategy gear. I feel like that would be a thing one day. Like
Ooh, I should.
MicroStrategy.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna ping him and see if he's got. I still talk to him. I'm gonna see if he's got some old gear. That'd be great.
All right, I'll send my address.
All right, guys. This has been the Flow Show. Not much to talk about from the Flow report. It reminds me of something that you were saying, Straza, when we were dancing around Southeast Asia. When you were giving your presentations, you were telling everybody a little bit about who you are, what you like to do, what your background is, and at the bottom of your list, you said, "And this is what I do during bear markets," and it was golfing, fishing, whatever.
Yeah.
We're in that environment right now. Look, I mean, we can't.
Yeah.
We're not going to force trades. At least I can speak for myself. I have forced some trades and they haven't worked out. So that's the market speaking loud and clear to be very, very selective right now.
My grandmother always used to say something to me. She would say, "Stephen, you have to make hay while the sun is shining," and all she meant was, while the weather's good, go outside and work in the yard, whatever, environment permitting, act accordingly. The same is true in the opposite, right? So go make money in a bull market and take full advantage of it. Put your foot way down on that gas pedal. But in messy crap markets like this, don't be afraid to just walk away and say, forget it. Because sometimes some traders, overactive people like me, you could do more harm than good in certain environments. And this environment, I think it's important to note, is not great, and it's getting worse and worse. It's been deteriorating pretty quickly over the past few weeks. So it's worth watching very closely right now and reducing position size, sitting on your hands a bit, going golfing, fishing, hiking, whatever.
Well, for those of you who are options players and like to do delta neutral trades, I'll just throw that out there. Delta neutral credit spreads are working in this environment. In fact, I took 2 off today at my profit target, XLU, which is the utilities ETF, and Costco. I had an Iron Condor and Costco that came off at a profit target today. So those trades are working. They're not all working, of course, but That's where my money is right now. That's where I'm putting most of my effort in those types of trades. And until things change, that's my MO. And I've been a broken record for 3 months now.
And that's information. And Sean, you and I will continue to come on here and tell people how our trades are doing because it's some of the best information we have. In bull markets and trending markets, we come on here and we're bragging because we got all these winners and they're all long trades, right? And they're directional bets and everybody's happy. During sideways markets, we're all frustrated. I'm getting stopped out of this. I'm getting stopped out of that. Breakouts are failing, right? Sean's over here like, I'm selling premium, bitches. Killing it. And then the bear markets, shorts are working, and JC's talking about we short the best stocks in the world, and blah, 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 blah. So something for everything.
Yeah. All right. This has been the Flow Show. He is Steve Straza. I'm Sean McLaughlin. Follow us on Twitter. He's S Straza on Twitter. I am Options Sean on Twitter. And we'll be on the morning show tomorrow morning. So tune in on Stock Market TV. Take care, everybody.
Peace.